Hey guys, I'm Rick, and that is One Big Pile of Bricks with Trent and Josh.
Hey!
Hello, thank you for having us.
Wonderful to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Now, Dan didn't explain, so I'll explain it for you. This is your camera, and this is your camera. So how have you guys been?
Yeah, really good.
Good.
Kicking on. Adelaide has been pretty good for us, I think.
Adelaide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the rad place to be. We just had Brixpo.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it's massive.
now-
Brixpo is massive. All
is.
credit to them, like it's huge.
It was
Yeah.
very, very good. Great experience. Lots of fun. Lots of exhibitors this year. Really, really awesome.
We had a, 8.8 meter Star Destroyer that
I
was
saw
built,
that online. I
minifigure
was
scale,
like-
Moff
It went
Gideon's light
viral,
cruiser.
yeah.
And they had a mishap. So basically this thing, being 8.8 meters, had to be assembled on site. So
Yeah,
they had to
'cause it's
transport
massive.
it,
Yeah,
assemble
yeah.
it, and they practiced it, bringing it over, assembling it, had it down to about 3 hours, and then over in the truck, a ladder fell on it and basically destroyed it. So it became a 2-day live build. Of
Quite a literal Star
reconstructing it.
Destroyer, in
Yeah.
fact.
which
Well, it's
I
kinda
think
accurate
added.
to the movies, right? Like,
That's it.
That's how it is. But it's one of those things like, with a few select people that build big things, Brickman included, it's always steel and glue, and obviously that wasn't glued, right?
It wasn't glued. No.
No, there was steel, but there was not
That's
glue.
a bit heartbreaking, right? Building this massive ship and then
Well,
being...
I think it ended up being quite entertaining, like Trent said, because they were building it over the weekend. People were there actually like actively watching them build it, and I think that was quite exciting in itself. So even the people that are coming along got to see that, and just seeing the internals and stuff. I think that made it very cool. Surprisingly,
It's
It
one of
was
those
very
things too that I think anything that's live build, you guys would know. You guys have been in the Lego sector a long time. Like, live build always attracts people, kids, because it's exciting.
Yes,
And that's why, like, the great ball contraptions are exciting for kids
Yes.
because it moves, right? And
Yes.
everything's like...
absolutely.
How have you found Lego Masters fame?
It's odd. It's odd. I mean, like, to be honest.
You're the first one that said that, which
Well-
is good, because usually you get the media and it's like, oh, it's awesome. Like, you know.
Well, for us, we did it. We filmed pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And when it released, COVID had hit. So it was pretty much locked down. We didn't do much media. We weren't doing that much out there. So it was a bit of a tempered kind of experience. I'd be walking down the street, grabbing my morning coffee. Someone would drive past, wind down the window, go, "Oh my God, you live around here." It was sort of, there was that element while the
Yeah.
show was airing of being recognized in odd spaces.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's really only when you're at a Lego convention or a
Yes.
Lego
Yeah.
event that it really kind of kicks back in. And you forget. You sort of go, well, we're going to be out of, it's almost 3 years on now.
Yeah, it's a long
We're not going to
time.
be in the public experience. But there are people watching it. They go, oh, we're midway through season 2 right now, when they
Yeah.
come up to you. So
That's really
it
funny,
can
right? That
be
people are so far
live.
behind. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
you guys did a great job. Do you win? You're like, you haven't watched it.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
guess
yeah.
with kids, like, you might have kids that were, say, 3 when it aired that are
Yeah.
now 6.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
can kind of watch it. So they're going, oh, let's go back and watch the old seasons with the kids that now can pay attention. So, look, it's we love kind of almost giving back to the community because people love it. People love the
Yeah,
show
they
and they
do.
just want to talk about the show. And it's always positive, isn't it?
Absolutely, and we had lots of really cool opportunities to visit schools and things like that, where we had a great time just meeting lots of kids that were really, really excited. And I think that's what it was really about for us. Just
Yeah.
Do
giving back in that way.
you... I feel sorry for you guys because there was big discussions, I know, at the start because I was like, oh, because meet and greets. We're like, oh, we'll get season 2 and season 3. But COVID killed all that.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost a lot of opportunities to do a lot of publicity stuff. We realized when COVID hit that season
Yeah.
1 did that we didn't get to do. So we were a bit bummed about that. And like Trent said, COVID was the rampant when the show aired, so we didn't
Yeah.
really even leave our houses. So we didn't get to do lots of different things that we missed out
Caroline and
on.
I went to the finale of season 2 and saw you
Yeah.
build. It was amazing.
Yes, we saw you in the crowd.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
like, look how big this thing is. Like, because you don't realize, no one understands. Like,
No.
TV doesn't really show you how big something is until you walk into a room. And Caroline and I
Yeah.
were like, is this thing going to fall on us? Like, it's so big, and you're looking at it like, my God, and they built that. And, you know, it's always hard to come second. Like, you build up to this real big point of coming into the show. Were you guys disappointed not winning?
To be honest, like
Not really.
I wasn't like
No.
I remember being on the show and thinking that I was a bit of a fraud getting on the show, going, oh gosh, what are we doing here, Trent? We're very much out of our depth. And I was just like, don't get eliminated first, and then we're all good, and I don't care after that. And we were very close to getting eliminated first, and thankfully didn't, because we ended up being quite successful after that. And I think we just found our niche and what we were really good at, and we clicked and gelled as a team, and like just making the grand final, I think for me was like the bee's knees. Like I was so excited to be there, and like I said to Trent, once we made it in, I just didn't care if we won. Yeah, we're going to try our hardest to do that, but if we don't, I didn't really care.
And this is what I've spoken to because we've had multiple teams on the show and multiple people that have reached the finale and sort of feel a little bit disappointed they didn't win.
Yeah.
Out of thousands of people applied, you got onto a national TV show.
Absolutely.
And
you know, like...
The experience of the show is just amazing. The brick pit, having access to all those bricks and just being part of something that is unique. So for us, just being on there, and I think Josh said when we had the catering, we're like, we can't get eliminated because this food is so good. So it was just like these little goals.
I said that to Trent a lot of times.
Kind of keep plugging away.
I actually gained weight while we were on the show because the food was so good.
It was so good. Yeah.
It's good to hear that you guys had a positive experience because every season you're going to have one team or one person that doesn't really have a great experience because it is reality TV.
It's stressful and it puts you under a really high pressure situation, and it just doesn't work with everybody's personality. And I think for Trent and I, we were pretty easygoing, so we're happy to roll with the punches, and if things were stressful, it's stressful, but we could get over it pretty quickly. But for other teams, I think they found it quite confronting and quite challenging.
Do you think that was the key for you guys getting so far in the competition?
I think so. I think just being relaxed, being able to sort of problem solve.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I found it really hard to read Brickman's feedback. Like we really misread his Cinderella feedback where he's like, I don't get the story. And we're like, but you'll get it when we make it clear at the end. And then we kind of saw big picture. He wanted these big iconic elements of that story, the slipper, maybe trying on the slipper at a bigger scale. And we were just fixated on this palace and this minifigure scale that we kind of missed that. So once I think we learnt how to take the feedback and understand what the deliverables were, it helped us find that groove and work out how to convey that story side of it.
And for us, that was the first elimination, so that was a stressful experience in itself. So.
And for those listening and watching at home, who got eliminated first?
Annie and Runa,
It was the
mermaid.
Yeah,
the mermaid.
The mermaid
debacle.
curse, in fact.
It collapsed with about 10 minutes to go.
Yeah.
So I mean, really feel for them because it's really heartbreaking.
And
when something
Runa
goes
is an
wrong.
amazing builder.
Yeah.
Like she's incredibly talented.
She won at the Brickvention. I think it was the best exhibition the year before.
2019 for that Star Wars, the Crystal Fox.
It was incredible.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
So,
we saw it and I was like, oh, she's good because that was the same season. I got a phone call because Endemol's like, we need people, and I was like, look, I don't want to be on TV.
Yeah.
And
And they're like, oh no, come, it'd be good. And like at the time, anybody and everybody that was in the Lego community after seeing season one was like, oh, it's actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they first approached me for season one, I'm like, what are they going to do about Lego? You know, you're like...
It was hard to visualize what it would be at that
yeah.
time.
And then because it exploded, everyone was trying to get on it. And we've seen multiple contestants now that have been on through in the same room as I was in. So like Ryan Evans was there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheap Jokes, who got eliminated first in season 4. Stuff for Andrew. But anyway, like...
We love you, Andrew.
I think it's interesting seeing how far the show's come along.
Yes.
And, you know, season 1 and season 2 really carried the show. Because, you know, 3 and 4, it always gets different and harder and there's more challenges. Do you look back on what you guys did and compare yourselves to the new teams?
There's a bit of, I don't know, there's a bit of comparison, certainly with the challenges, and saying, wow, this is a tough one. Like, what would we do in that situation?
Yes.
But yeah, certainly I look back, because I've always sort of had this idea, what if they do an All-Stars type season? What am I competing against,
that's exactly right, yeah.
You know, what might I have to come up? And like, I remember just seeing the Dave and Gus finale build and just going, this is another level that is just making me really quite nervous of that prospect.
Well, that's right.
But so certainly you do compare, but ultimately this is a creative expression of kind of your build style and your humor and all the things you like to bring. And I think if you're true to that and you can kind of hit the nail on the head on story, then it's just about having fun and trying to convey that out there. And you just do your best, right?
Well, it's always hard, I think, like, obviously, I have no experience in it, but every season they're making it harder and harder.
Yeah, that's the way it looks for sure.
Well, and you think if there's going to be an All-Stars, how hard it's going to be, because they're getting, like, effectively the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
And comparing yourselves to everybody is really hard, because it's human nature to compare yourselves to your best mate, to your brother. It's one of those things, but to get on the show and get as far as you did was amazing. it's massive credit. Like, you can't, no one will ever take that away from you guys. Like, at the end of the day, that's the real thing about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, I've always loved Lego. I'm a big toy guy, so I've always been into toys.
If you guys haven't seen his room full of toys, my God. When we saw, like, you know how they do, like, the interviews and whatever?
Yeah.
And I was like, is he really telling people where he lives? Like, there's so much vintage toys. And, like, it's a lot of stuff, right? And it's
I don't
packed.
even think the TV did it justice. You have to be in that room to really experience the nostalgia, the sheer amount of toy, like the number of toys you have in that room is just, it's mind blowing.
Yeah. So, like, for me, I've loved Lego, and I've always built Lego. Like, my earliest memories are with Fabuland sets, right?
Oh, wow, cool.
Building those and playing with those. But I hadn't done a lot of creative build. In fact, when they said, the story goes, Endemol's ringing up and saying, we got the interview, we're going to do a Skype interview, can you bring some builds? And I'm like, yeah, I've got heaps of builds I can show you. But I was sort of thinking to myself, why do they want to see, like, sets that I've built? It sort of seemed unusual. And the interviewer was like, I'll send you the paperwork, have a look, and we'll set up the interview for tomorrow. And I looked at the sheet, and he's like, what's this mock thing? I've got to build a mock.
Oh.
Okay, so
right?
no joke, I was exactly the same.
So I'm Googling.
I looked at it, I was like, what is a mock?
Yeah.
And I had to Google it too when they said bring it to the interview. So Trent and I were in a very similar boat.
Right. So I've Googled mock, and I'm like, my own creation. Okay. They obviously want me to build something and show in the interview which is kind of obvious looking back at it now, right? Like, so I've gone out, to the shops and just bought, like, bricks.
Yeah, well,
right?
that's what you have to
Because I've got
do.
sets, right? Like, I don't want to break up all my sets to build something. And it's literally like a pressure build, right? Because I've got 3 hours before I've got, the interview, and I've got to build something to show them on this thing. So I'm like, I've just got these colorful bricks. I'm like, what do I build? And I'm just looking, I've got googly eyes in the set. So I'm like, this just looks like Sesame Street, right?
Yeah.
I've got reds, I've got blues. That's Cookie Monster color. That's Elmo. That's Big Bird. So I just built Sesame Street, and that was what I sort of showed on the thing. But this sort of, so for our journey, and Josh probably had less Lego experience than me, it was a real trial by fire and learning on the show, right? How to tell the stories, how to build these big models, what you could do, like that was all a learning. But like, what were we, 140 something hours of building by the end of it?
147 hours of building time.
So that's like the apprenticeship. So I think once you've done that, you're kind of skilled up, ready to go, right? Like you've kind of, the challenges they give you set you up to be able to kind of do that final build to some extent.
Yeah.
So it's we've done our apprenticeship now.
That's right. And so for those that don't know, Trent and I were paired together for the show.
Oh, wow, cool.
We didn't know each other at all before. We briefly bumped into each other in the interview process for probably 3 minutes, I reckon it would have been at most. And I applied with another friend who couldn't commit to it in the end because of his work. So they ended up pairing me with Trent. But I had very similar, probably less Lego experience than you. I had played with it as a kid, but had a very long dark age going into young adulthood. And then saw season 1 and thought, yeah, this would be pretty awesome. That'd be lots of fun. So I applied with a friend, and we went through the interview process and was surprisingly successful because both of us felt like we were very much out of our depth. But when they paired me with Trent, I went to his house, I think 4 days before filming, caught up for dinner, and we were both sitting there going, cool, so how much Lego have you done? Like, how much Lego building have you done before? And Trent's like, oh, I've built these sets, and that's probably about it. And I was like, cool, I've done stuff as a kid, but nothing much ever since. Yeah. And we're like, cool, this is going to be an interesting experience.
We're in trouble.
It's like, both of us thought it, but probably didn't say it. Like, oh, gosh.
We'll be polite, like, this
we're like, oh, gosh, this is going to be fun.
Internally, you're just going, wow.
We're going to be, a bit out of our depth. But yeah, it was very much trial by fire, and we had to learn very, very quickly. And I think credit to both of our personalities. We gelled really well. We clicked. We became really good mates very quickly. And we ended up finding a groove that we both really enjoyed building and that we were very good at. That we think was quite unique to all the other teams that we were up against. So, yeah, we stuck with it, and we were pretty happy with where we ended up.
But that's to look back on it and have such a great experience, because we know from season 1, Kale and Billsy, those guys were put together, and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And there's a big fear that any team that gets plopped together, because personalities can clash.
Yeah.
And that's part of being a human. You're going to clash with somebody. Like, that it could have ended up a lot worse. But to get as far as you did,
and you put in a very stressful situation, so that definitely exacerbates the situation. So I was very thankful that it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, but you guys are pretty chill. Like, so I think if one of you guys was like me, full on, you're gonna have issues because you're gonna have that environment where one's pushing, and that's never great for building, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You build best, I think, when you're having fun and you're relaxed and you can experiment, you can try things out, and you're open to the feedback. Like, you've got it. I think realistically, I remember we did the underwater build, and we had like maybe 10 minutes left, and Josh is like, "I'm gonna build a fish," and he's built. It's like, let's be honest. It was pretty bad,
so
right?
Bad.
And I'm like, you can't put that in there. You can't. Honestly, it's just nothing against you as a builder because you know how to build.
Yeah.
But that fish has got to go, right? So you got to be able to as well realize when something's not to the standard.
Yeah.
Or you
What's interesting about that is everybody that we've spoken to that's come second have said exactly the same thing. That you have to be open to be told, look, that's pretty crap. Like, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we had pretty thick skin, so I think both of us didn't care if the other one turned around and went, that's not working. You need to stop, or you need to change it, or the colour's not right, or just scrap it and start again. Like, we were very open to doing that.
It's not coming from a bad place. It's not a negative thing. It's just we're trying to achieve the best build we can. And so you need to have a bit of that critique of yourself.
Absolutely.
Did you guys ever reach a point where, along the Lego Masters journey, where you were like, we have an opportunity to win now?
Absolutely.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
I think once we had our down moment when we nearly got eliminated, and then pretty much straight away when we hit that next challenge and we won, we had a bit of a kick up, and then we just kind of cruised up for a long time after that.
Yeah.
And so it was probably, I think when we had won probably the second or maybe even third challenge, we were like, oh, wow, we could actually win this. Because I think we realized that we had a completely different style to everybody else. And Brickman was really loving what we were doing. So we're like, oh, like this could actually work.
Yeah.
We're doing something different. It's unique. We're having fun. We realized that it was obviously quite good based on the fact that we were winning a few challenges. And we thought we could actually win this.
It's sort of going big and trying to do big characters with sort of fairly stereotypical scenes. So, like a farmer pulling out a carrot. We made them really stereotypical. Like that's, what do you think of in your head when you picture a farmer or cats or these sort of leaning into those stereotypes, going big helped us kind of sell that story.
Absolutely.
I look at it and I see what's happening, which I think is a pitfall you can get into really easily on the show. So I think we thought that might have been a bit of a path to victory that could set us apart. And Andrew and Damien and Alex and Jackson, absolutely, Jackson is an artist, right?
Yeah, he's a very, very talented artist.
His aesthetic is absolutely beautiful. Then you got Andrew and Damien who have been building at, conventions and just have a knowledge of the brick and just that ability to produce incredible designs, right?
Yeah.
So we knew what we were up against, but we felt like we had something different that could differentiate us and could be something that could win. And I remember going into that final build, they brought Poseidon from the winner, Henry and Cade's season 1 Poseidon, which is, I'm not going to lie, a beautiful,
it's
amazing build. But we probably didn't realize that it was quite small. Like they didn't use up the full base plate.
They didn't, no.
Right? So I remember going into the final build, seeing Poseidon there and just going to Josh, we just have to go as big as we can. We just want to go, right?
It was massive. I don't think anyone can actually...
It was like a child's bed, wasn't it? Those race car beds?
Huge.
You could sort of sleep a child in there.
Absolutely. Maybe two.
It was one of those things where, like, the first time you walk in and, for you guys, it's always amazing. But when you're someone from the outside walking into this room and being like, wow, these guys pulled it off. And you see this, like, pirate ship and you're just like... This is massive, and you can't describe how big it was.
It was more than 3 meters tall, and that's from the table, not from the floor.
Well, on the table, what's about a meter?
Yep.
Meter-ish,
Meter-ish. And it was another 3 meters taller than that, and it was above the light fixtures, like the big Lego light fixtures in the studio. It went higher than that. So thankfully, we weren't building on either of the sides because we actually would have hit the light because it was in the way.
Yeah. Because when we walked in, I said to Caroline, do you reckon that's going to fall over today? Because, our kids are, like, everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, is that going to fall over today? And you can hear the producers like, don't touch the bottles! Because you can hear the kids, like, trying to poke it. Don't touch it! Because you can see you're like... I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it was like this. And I'm just like, this is gonna kill a kid. Like, and it's just
Yeah,
like,
it's not glued, kids.
It's not glued.
This is
Like,
not
and then
safe.
you can hear the producers like, you can hear D-Mac like, don't touch a bottle, stay away. And you see like people are trying to like get photos, like, no, not too close, not too close. It was so funny, but it was like, when I walked in, it was the first thing I floated to, like, you know, because it's big, right?
Yeah.
And it's smart way of building bigger. Like, sometimes bigger isn't always better, but when you're getting judged by kids,
Yeah.
because that's what you're being judged by. 'Cause
Yeah.
you guys didn't have a Lego designer there like season 1 did.
Yes.
So you're being judged by kids, so it's a lot harder to impress kids than adults, right?
Yeah.
Because kids are the ultimate. Kids are always
They're honest.
honest with you.
Yeah, that's right.
And kids' words, for whatever reason, even in our business, hurt the most because they're always like, and they don't realize that they're like being a bit mean, but you're just like, oh wow, okay, no worries. Like, did you guys, seeing the other builds, how did you guys feel about your big build?
I guess we
Like when-
realised we hadn't probably dressed it as well as we wanted to. So we had the basic ship and we had the characters, and we probably didn't have as much time to position the characters and put in those nice little details.
We had grand
realised
plans.
that, yeah.
We had a lot of grand plans that we scrapped, I'd say 70% of by the time we got to the end because we just ran short on time. And I remember day one when because we obviously decided we wanted to build big characters. That's what we wanted to do.
Yeah, straight out the gate, we were impressed. We were like, wow, these guys are not messing around.
I was like, we need to do characters. That's what we need to do. So as soon as we knew we were doing that, we had a scale that we had to work with. It was like characters that are about 30 centimeters tall. So everything else had to be in that same scale. And when we knew we were doing pirates, I was just like, oh no. In my head, I was picturing this pirate ship is going to have to be huge. I was like, how on earth are we going to pull that off? So obviously we only did a small section of the pirate ship to make it work. So visually it was fine, but like I just remember day one, I was building the pirate ship, Trent was working on the characters, and after we'd finished filming for that day, it might have been 8 hours into the challenge. I was probably 4 bricks off of the base plate, and I walked away just going, "We're not going to finish, Trent.
No way.
There's no way we're going to do it." And I was genuinely freaking out. But we have no choice at this point. So I just hammered down and went as high as I could, as quickly as I could. I remember like engineering it really well because obviously I was worried at that scale. I didn't know if it was going to fall over or not. So I had to engineer that drastically different to how I would ever build anything else.
And we'd originally planned to build 2 masts, whereas I think in the end we only got 1 mast.
So
right?
I actually
And
built
you'd
the
done all
internal
internals.
structure to put a second mast in. But by the time I'd finished the first one and obviously had a lot of hiccups we had to overcome, I was like, there's no time left, so I just bricked over it. So that's time that we burned there. So there's plenty of things that I look back on now going, oh, I could have saved 2 hours here, I could have saved 2 hours here, and all of that time adds up where we could have had all the other things we wanted. We wanted to put like big nets on there hanging off, hanging in the sky with barrels. We wanted to have an actual proper steering wheel. We would have built like a table with like a map on it, a compass, all those fun things.
All those little details.
Which go in a pirate ship, all those iconic pirate things.
So we felt like our model had that pull you in factor, but not that keep you factor with the details. And,
so by
and
the time
we
finished, we looked back and we're like, oh, we just missed so many details that we could have had if we had more time. But we were obviously at the end of the day, like we were super proud with how far we'd gotten, even having produced something that big. It was the biggest thing that's ever been in a finale so far. Just to get something that size.
I think it's still the biggest.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it was
I don't think anyone's built like.
To be
massive.
fair, we did go quite big and then lacked detail. So there's probably a lesson.
There's a lesson.
There's a lesson.
You don't need to go that big.
There's a lesson there. But there's certainly things we could have done differently to make it a lot better. But I certainly have no regrets. So.
Yeah, but to look back on it and have no regrets is a big deal because it's always hard. Like even as a kid, you always get told, "Oh, it's all about being a part of the race."
Yeah.
But when you get to the finale and you lose, it still hurts.
Yeah.
It certainly does, but the experience, like you can't put into words that experience that we had. Like that's even the pride. Like, it sounds corny, maybe.
Even the experience of being in the finale, regardless of win or not, that was just amazing, and that's why I'm not disappointed at all, and I never have been.
I felt like win, lose or draw, you're already a winner, and that kind of that win is just like the bonus, the nice thing. And we were so happy. We got along so well with all the other contestants. Yeah. We're just so genuinely happy for Alex and Jackson. Like that, good on them. Like that's wonderful. They did a great build, and they're the winners, and they deserve that, right? So that's brilliant for them, and take
by all
nothing
means-
away from the skill of the other builders.
By
Yeah.
all means, looking at the other builds in the room on the finale, I was like, yeah, ours is definitely third. I did not question
It's
the
really
result.
it's really hard too, because when we went, because I was invited to the first season, but I was quite sick, and I was like, look, I don't want to be in a room with 100 strangers I don't know.
Yeah.
And then like when we did season 2, and I walk in, I was talking to some of the producers, I was like, wow, this is massive. He goes, yeah, it's hard to choose, right? And I was like, yeah, who do you vote for without upsetting people? You know how it's like, because you always know it's going to be a big tender for people, and you don't know how it's going to react. But the producers made a comment to me. They're like, you know what? This season we didn't really have any drama, because there's always going to be an issue, and we've seen it with like season 3 and season 4. Unfortunately, there's always 1 or 2 people that come out of the experience and are not happy with the way they were portrayed on TV.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you guys look like you're pretty happy with the way you're portrayed.
I think 100%.
Yeah.
Like it's confronting. I remember I've done a fair bit of sort of media work.
Yeah.
I've got my podcast, so I'm
Yeah.
used to being
We'll put
out
the
there.
link down the bottom. He
Yeah,
doesn't
there's-
need it because
there's
it's
still-
busy anyway, but it's fine. We'll put it.
But it was really weird to turn on Channel 9 and watch yourself played back on national TV. That's a kind of another level of experience.
Well, it's getting 1 million viewers each episode. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So
It didn't really feel real watching it.
it's
just
bizarre.
like, you're like, oh, this isn't really TV, is it?
But certainly, I think Endemol, I think their values for the Lego show are, it's about creativity. It's about showcasing these amazing builds. And you want to
Yeah.
see a bit of the journey and a bit of the trials and tribulations as you go. But it's not about making me or Josh look like bad people. It's about showcasing what we're there to do in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
So I think that
They're certainly not out to make you look
Flavours it.
bad, and I think we really
No.
appreciated that. And you can compare it to other TV shows where they probably are out to make you look bad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Love Island, they're probably trying to pull as much drama as
Married
they
at
can.
first sight, they're like
Yeah.
turning up the heater. To
Yeah.
make everyone a bit angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, but they certainly weren't out to
No.
do that, and I think that we really appreciated just the values that the show really stood for, and still does. Yeah.
It's pretty good that you had such a great experience, because, you know, we've chatted with so many contestants, and some people don't have a great experience.
Yeah.
How did you guys find the social media side of things?
what about the Nathan comment? You got to talk about.
Yeah. So I honestly like don't care what people think of me.
Yeah,
so
it's the best way to be, though,
People
right?
making negative comments about us, I just like had a good chuckle at, because it didn't really bother me. They've never been there. They don't know the experience. They
Yeah.
can't comment. So I don't care if they do, and I will happily just like laugh it off. There was like, but people would say all the time,
Well-
we would get comments like, oh, we want Trent and Josh to win, but then you get the opposite of like, oh, like, why are they even there? They should have been eliminated first
Yeah,
episode.
the
Like,
Cinderella build.
that
They should
happens.
have gone. Their build, wasn't clear. They got to go.
You get comments like that.
You get comments like that, and look, that's someone's opinion. That's to me, that's just them expressing it.
But
what-
my favorite one was I was reading comments. I believe it was on Facebook, and someone commented on, I think it was a Lego Masters post. Well, it must have been one of our builds, and they said,
Yeah.
why is this Trent and Nathan guy still here? They need to go. And I was laughing so much. I commented below and said, "Yeah, that Nathan guy needs to go. We
Get
hate
rid of
him."
Nathan.
Man." So in our Lego Masters group chat, I've become Nathan. Yeah,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And are you
So
guys
funny.
still close with your teams?
absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. We got a group chat,
Yeah.
and that was pretty. Like for the year after, that was pretty much
It's-
every day.
To be
And
honest, it's still active. Like I would say once a week, even maybe like the least once a month, we're chatting and messaging people about different things, and yeah, it's still active. I think everyone's still pretty much involved. No, as far as I'm aware, no one had any ill feelings towards anyone in our season. We just got along really well, and I think we're really
Yeah.
blessed and grateful for that experience, because I know that not everyone else had that. So
it was just for us that COVID, because we couldn't
Yeah.
travel. Like we were really hoping to get to Brickvention and do that as a thing, and we have booked our tickets for 2023 Brickvention.
Oh, cool,
So
awesome.
we'll be back, and hopefully we can get like a lot of the guys back
Yeah.
for that. But we've got quite a big contingent from Adelaide from our season. So we've got Summer
Yeah.
and Iona,
Yeah, you got heaps.
and Jody.
yes,
And so we had Jody's birthday. I won't say the number I was going to say, but we had Jody's birthday party.
If you want to live past this podcast, don't say the number.
But Iona was there, Josh
Yeah.
was there, and like we get a lot. Like Jody feels like we're almost like a team of 3 to some extent. We'll go to the certified Lego store and
together
do
and
builds
stuff.
together
Yeah,
and all that
that's
sort of
awesome.
thing. So it's really nice community feel. So
Absolutely.
we love the guys. Like it's such a unique experience, right? To have done the show and then to have done, watched the show come back and then to have all the social media stuff. That kind of bonds you in a way that is very special. Yeah. So we are very appreciative of those bonds and those connections.
When every season comes on, do you have a sad or a happy feeling?
Look, I think it's a sad feeling.
No, it's sort of, I guess it brings back a lot of those emotions. Yeah. So that sort of, and a lot of those, are really positive. So I think, it's just you
fun.
watch it differently having been on it.
Yeah.
I think having known how it's made, I certainly don't watch it like I watched season 1.
Absolutely. You have a different lens.
But just so happy to see what people are building and just
do you appreciate it more? Like, do you appreciate the builds more now that you've been on the show?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
You have to. Like, you've been through there. You know what it takes to actually put something on the table that's of quality.
Yeah.
And of not quality,
and
to be fair.
You certainly feel for people that are going through those tough moments where they've picked... I was chatting to Ryan, came down for Brixpo.
Yeah.
And, we were reflecting on, Gabby and Ryan built this like big white fountain for the Kale Scale Height Challenge. And it was, and he realized, he's like, I've got this terrible big white shape that is so boring and uninteresting. And he's like, but we realized and we were committed. And so you can see that path playing out.
Yeah.
And you go, oh no, what are you doing? But in the moment,
you don't see it.
You don't see it. And you just commit, and you gotta, because at some point you can't burn any more planning time. You've just got to go and start building.
Well, and you don't want to be known as the team that gets eliminated because you reach 3/4 of the way and smash it and start again.
That's right.
There's no time.
So there's all these factors at play, but when you've been there, you kind of know what they're going through.
When you know you're on a path that's not the right path, at some point you just have to hedge your bets. To finish it and just hope that it's not the worst in the room.
And how, like, looking on, season 3 and season 4, who do you think would be the most challenging to build against?
Oh, look, for season 3, I mean, look,
there's a lot of contestants
lot
now,
of
right?
amazing.
Because whenever I chat to people now, you forget there's been like 60 contestants or whatever.
Yeah,
now.
That's quite a lot.
Right.
Now you put a number on it.
Yeah, you think about it. There's been a lot, like, because you don't realize till later. You're like, wow, there's been a lot of people because we've all lived through Lego Masters. We've been, lucky enough that Lego Masters, anybody that sells Lego is lucky enough to have Lego Masters as it's ultimate TV ad without being a TV ad.
Yeah.
Right? Because it just as soon as it comes on, your website's going to get smashed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be talking about it. And every season's like, oh, did you see this? Did you see that?
Yeah.
But what we've found is in the later seasons, I don't know if because kids are growing up, like, because when you guys were around and everything was locked down.
Yeah.
I think people were forced to be glued onto the TV and watch it.
Yeah, that's right.
There was this more hype about it, where
Yes.
now I'm noticing that, like, as we spoke earlier, like, people are watching it later, and it's really weird having that experience, like, because nothing against your season, but there's been 2 other seasons, so you kind of forget, because all the builds kind of merge into each other.
That's right.
Like, we had this yesterday, we were filming with Nick and Jean from the latest season, and we were talking about, I don't know who it was, Dan. We were talking about someone, I'm like, is he from season 2 or season 3? There's so many...
I was talking to D-Mac, and he goes, you guys from season 3 did really well. And I'm like, in my head, no, we were season 2, D-Mac. It's like, so even though,
they're forgetting as well, right? Because, like, they're overseeing, and D-Mac, like, credit to D-Mac, and I don't think a lot of people give him enough credit, because I think he's the secret source behind Lego Masters, because we've had Lego Masters UK where it wasn't the same.
Well, they pioneered the format.
Yeah, and
that's
everywhere.
D-Mac, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like executive producer on every other Lego Masters, minus the New Zealand one.
Yep.
So that's why they've, like, if you look at all the other, like, Germany and stuff, it's the same set effectively.
So I know it's so weird to see.
Sometimes they just copy it and paste the challenges too.
Because if you go in where we filmed, we were in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And they built the set around one real wall. So there was a real brick wall, and then obviously they'd replicated that look of that wall or that design for the fake, set part. And it's so weird to think now that they're building, they're going into other sets and replicating that brick wall that was there by default.
That just happened to be some dingy shed in the middle of Melbourne.
Well, it's
had
always
cows and sheep in it during the Royal Melbourne
It's
show.
really funny, right? Because Lego Masters was always filmed like a week or 2 weeks after the Melbourne show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you guys have the Royal Adelaide show, same deal, right? It's the same thing. no one can understand the smell of that shed when it gets hot, right? Like, no one can understand.
It's not pleasant.
It's not, and that's why I'm like, it's kind of good for the new contestants. They've moved to a nice new studio.
Yes.
Because we were chatting earlier to someone else, and I'm like, you guys will never understand the smell of that shed peak summer.
Man,
for the poor contestants
it
having
got
to build
hot
in it.
some days. I remember just being very, very tired and hot and sweaty, and it was not fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming all this way from Adelaide, getting up super early, like super early. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Trent and Josh. Also, I just noticed his amazing T-shirt. I was like, Street Fighter, cool, and then my brain was like, no, actually.
What is brilliant about this shirt? So it's like Cage Fighter. So it's all different versions of Nicolas Cage.
Like, this is amazing.
But the best one is from Face Off. They've actually done John Travolta. So it's Nicolas Cage as John Travolta. It's got the bees. It's got not the bees. It's even got the Superman when he was meant to be, and he did the test runs.
I know. I've watched the
documentary.
Yeah. Because I was always fascinated because like Nicolas Cage, he's a brilliant actor, but he's a bit of a odd unit.
Yes.
So he does some really weird stuff, and when you see him in that, you're like, he could have actually been a brilliant Superman.
Yeah, for sure.
Because
he was at the height of his popularity, coming off like Con Air. And, some of that work he done. I think he won an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas.
Superman #1, I think. I think he owns the comic.
Right.
So
yes,
like,
he does.
Yeah. So he's like big into it.
Yeah. I think his son is named Kal-El or something.
Yeah, I think it is,
right?
yeah. And he, like anybody that names their kids after. Nothing against comic book kids, but it's always a bit odd, right? Like, you're like, oh, what a... But anyway, thank you so much, Trent and Josh and Trent. We'll put all their links, they're selling merch now on their website. Buy their merch so you can have these beautiful faces on your jumper. Quick shout out to his beautiful hair. Look how nice it is.
It is.
I did make a comment when they came in. I'm like, your hair is perfect. It's fine because he was like doing that. Like that. I can't do that. So, but like that. But anyway, thank you so much. We'll put all their links to their socials, Instagram, everything. Keep an eye out. We might see them again in the future, hopefully sometime soon. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us, Rick.
Anytime, man. We really appreciate it. I know it's a bit
pleasure.
of a journey because, it's far, but we appreciate it.
But it's fun.
It's always fun. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Catch it.